What's going on YouTube? It's Bebop here. Today's video is going to be about the GreatSword and Hatchet combo. Now we have the new Crescent Wave, so I'm going to go over Serenity and Crescent Wave, the differences with the Hatchet I like using, and what you can do to increase your damage to absolutely hit up to 37k, 35k with the Crescent Wave if you have the right group with the Rend. This video is purely based on the Hive. It has nothing to do with mutations or PvP, so let me put that out there. Now, with the Greatswords, I run the Moonstone. Anytime that you are not swinging and doing heavies with the Greatsword, it's basically a DPS loss. The abilities are not that good. If we go over some of the abilities, I mean, really being able to stack 15% Rend is cool, but with Relentless Rush, you can reposition yourself. You can also do damage. You also get 10% in power for 10 seconds, which is huge, after hitting an enemy. And it's just, to me, that's probably the best ability. You're automatically going to be an onslaught right after that too. And it's a pretty long cooldown at 16.8, which this is the longest cooldown. Well, 16.8 is the same way. Roaring Rupture, so you could choose to go both. I've seen it both. I've used them both. To me, the Relentless Rush is a lot better. And also, if you have the Relentless Freedom here, you can unroot yourself if you somehow get stuck on the spikes with the shoot out the purple stuff at the very beginning of the first boss fight, or who knows, or let's say the spiders on the mob phase, second boss fight, you can remove the slow, and you can increase your critical hit chance. So to me, that's just the best ability to run with this setup. Let's go over the clothing real quick. Don't pay attention to the gems. I mean, I have these in there for my worm speed runs. Okay, this is if you are really good at the Hive and you want to go in there without much protection, maybe 15% only protection, and that would only be strike on your amulet, then you can feel free to run this, but just know during the mob phase, you're probably going to get knocked a lot because in public lobbies, the mobs are just everywhere. It's not really well grouped or weakened. This is basically a set for bosses. The Punishing Karm will generate 8% less threat, deal 1.5% more damage to taunted foes. Your melee attacks deal 1% more damage. You can also run Punishing Onyx, which will do 2% more melee damage, I believe, if I remember correctly. I think I have one somewhere here. 2% physical damage absorption. Your melee attacks deal 1% damage. So you can run Punishing Physical Ward if you want to. And I know I started this off saying don't pay attention to Jim, but I just figure we go in there and cover it anyways because people are going to ask. This is really good to run in the Hive, okay? If you're a melee player and you want to do more damage, okay? If you're strictly a ranged player, which in the Hive you should really be melee, but if you are strictly a ranged player, then you need to try to help yourself out with going with the, I think it's the Eyesight Rune Glass, whatever it does, that increases your range damage, and you need to put those rune glasses and just have a separate set for the Hive, okay, to add damage. The chest piece is the Sandworm chest piece, Keen, and Enchanted Ward, Shirking Energy. It's going to help me get more criticals. The Enchanted Ward and Refreshing on the gloves. I hope I went over this. Refreshing Torrent with this build is a must on the clothing. It's that way you can go ahead and get your cooldowns with the Hatchet really quickly. And then I have Relentless Freedom on the Attuned Leather Pants. You can feel free to put health or whatever you fancy. Or you can go with the crown nowadays, but that's up to you if you've done the PvP track. Enchanted Ward on this piece, basically a one perker. I have Serenity in here with the Moonstone. I have the Sandworm Hatchet, which is the Duneborn Hook. Vicious Refreshing Move I put on Refreshing Move. Keen Berserk. Also, I run the, not that. I run the Cunning Firestorm, okay? Here's what I run, the Cunning Firestorm. It's going to give your allies haste, so when we're about to break for the spikes, I like to hit the teammates with it. It's also going to do a little burn effect on the boss or the enemies, and so that's a pretty nice little Heartrune right there. It's also going to weaken the target 15% for 8 seconds. Strike Protection, Divine Empowered. Strike Protection, Health and Empowered would be BIS. Keen Awareness, Hardy, and Leeching. Now, a lot of people ask me, why do you run Elemental Band? You're not doing any elemental damage. I just want the Keen Awareness, Hardy, and Leeching. I can care less about the elemental affinity. It's 725 and Magnify, just fine to me. All right, the Earring, Empowering Toast on Potion. Gain 10% in power for 8 seconds. This is huge. If you're DPS, you need to have an Empowering Toast Earring, especially if you're running Crescent Wave, because when you have to re-drink your mana pot, you get 10% free in power. It'd be stupid not to have this. Get this earring and use it every time you're in the Hive. All right, let's go over attributes real quick. Here's what we have for the attributes. 355 dex. Why that instead of the 350 strength? Well, 15 crit chance while in power. The first boss does not have a back until he is stand phased. Okay, that's the only time you have access to his back. And please don't damage him on the belly when he gets stand broken. Go to the back, people. okay? Put Oblivion in the back and do some real damage. That's where you need to be. I've seen a lot of people damage it on the belly, which is very common amongst new players, and that's fine. We all did it. We all had to learn at some point, but just go to the back where you have access to the big damage, okay? But also when you're going up against mobs in the second boss, 15 crit chance while empowered is huge. And the second boss has a very weird hitbox, and he moves a lot, so as many criticals as you can get, it's just overall better in the hive. The last boss does not have a back, so even more of a thing, and especially if you're going to be on egg duty, to get more critical chances to increase your power or your damage. Now, 25 int for the extra 5% damage to increase backstabs and random critical hits, and then the rest strength, okay? And we'll go over the weapon skill tree real quick. I used the Relentless Rush, and whenever you hit an enemy with it, you get 10% in power, and then if you dodge, you get another 10% in power. Those are both 10 seconds, so that's 20% in power for 10 seconds. If you have Serenity, you're going to be in power cap once you get your stacks up on Serenity, so you're going to be sitting pretty. Always go with Keen Awareness Ring when you're using Serenity. And if we look at that, Balanced Blade, offensive stance +2 in power per attack for 5 max 10 stacks. For 5 seconds, max 10 stacks. So if we look at that right here, and if you look right above where my health bar is, you will see the stack stacking up right here. You go all the way to 10. And that's going to be 20% in power when you're up at the 10. And as long as you keep swinging away and you're hitting, it will stay there and refresh the seconds, as you can see. Now, of course, mobs move, bosses move, things like that. So if you're on the first boss, stay on the first boss. Do not go to spikes. Just keep hitting the first boss. You're going to be doing big stamina damage. You're more of a help on that than you are on spikes. Let the other range people and the quick melee people do spikes. Because if you get caught up trying to heavy swing and you get hit with the spikes, the purple stuff, when they explode, you need to pay attention on when they do that. You're going to get dropped, okay, if you're low con. And then we go over the Hatchet skill tree right here. I think it's pretty big for a lot of people to go with uninterruptible or staggered, you know. So when you go berserk on the second on the second boss where the mobs spawn, this is huge. If the wolf pins you down and you get the red rings spikes, you're screwed, right? And you're probably going to get everybody else killed. This will allow you to not be staggered, right? And so you can get out of the danger area, okay? You're also going to have increased haste. You're going to have life steal. And then you got Torrent right here. Quick, fast for attacks. You can choose to go with this perk if you want. It's only when the target's below 30% health. Or you could choose to maybe put your point somewhere else, wherever you fancy. Or you could even take that off, leave a spot for throwing, so then when you come out of the first boss, then you can just select a dot for throwing and continue on that way, okay? But you always want to go right side ultimate. The left side, Defy Death, would mostly be for skips in dungeons or in PvP. The right side, you're going to get a lot more damage. All attacks deal 4% additional base damage per debuff on target. Your targets are going to be debuffed pretty heavily. It's like 16% damage you're going to be missing out if you don't go right side ultimate. And then of course rending throw to apply 20% rend for 10 seconds. All right, let's get to some damage here. I'm going to Relentless Rush through. I'm going to dodge to get more in power, and we're going to be swinging, okay? So that's what you want to do every now and then. Just feel free to add in a dodge, but keep it going to keep your stacks going. And that way you get your in power going pretty good. Watch out for your cooldowns, because if that comes back, you will not be getting any additional damage. You want to make sure you have the additional 20% damage from the Moonstone, okay? And you can see it does really good damage here. Anywhere from 12 to 16 or 17k, okay? Now with the Hatchet, for me, after the first boss, I would just use the Hatchet mostly, because the damage you get with the Hatchet is just going to be far superior if you have the Duneborn Hatchet, okay? So as we look at this, I go Berserk, I can go Rending Throw, and then Torrent. Each one of those hits 5,699, and then look at my light attacks go away right here. That is a way faster damage than Serenity. And you also will have the Rending Throw come up, and then Refreshing Torrent to get your cooldowns quicker. That is really fast and really good damage. In my opinion, it's better than Serenity. But Serenity is really good for the first boss, obviously, to stand break. So that's up to you to decide which one to use. Me, after the first boss, I'd probably just use Hatchet, and I'd put on Inferno offhand, and I would just stick with that. All right, let's go to Crescent Wave. This is the new bad boy in town, all right? This is the beast right here, dude. This thing does hella damage. Now, I didn't think it would be hitting harder than Serenity because with Serenity, you got Trenchant Crits and Trenchant Strikes, so I don't know how the hell this thing's hitting so hard, but whew, OP, dude. And of course, with Crescent Wave, if we look here, you got Parallax, 12% base damage to targets further than 10 meters away, works on both weapons. So if you go with a ranged weapon offhand, like a bow or something like that, then you can shoot and get 12% base damage as long as they're 10 meters away. You can Crescent Wave while above 50% health. Heavy attacks project a projectile dealing 150% weapon damage. You got Thwarting Strikes and Centering Stacks. All right, here we go. So with this one, you're going to basically have to have mana pots, and you're going to have the same stat line here. 355 dex, 25 int, the rest in strength. And what you're going to do is you're going to relentless rush, you're going to dodge, and you're going to start swinging away. And look at the damage go. That was 21k. I mean, it's insane damage, right? And then you got to back off. I dodge, I drink mana pot, and we're back empowered and back in business, okay? Now, your mana pot won't cool down in time here, but that's okay. You got relentless rush, and you can get back to swinging and just doing almost 20k per. Oh, we're out of this. Let's go ahead and do that. Let's go ahead and kick. Hell, let's even dodge. Let's see what we can get to now. 19, still around the same. I hit a 22k on this dummy the other day, so it is very, very powerful. Let's do that. There was a 22k right there, as I just said. So as long as you can manage your mana, right, take this also. Increase mana regen rate by 30% for however many minutes your guy's gonna have it. That is really good. That's the energizing Hardy Meal. There might be something better out there than that. I can't remember if those other mana regen potions still exist or not. It's been a while since I really looked, but this thing hits incredibly hard. Okay, re-drink my mana, and we're gonna go ahead and start swinging again. Woo! All right, I'm gonna take a mana pot, and then I'm gonna kick. And then I'm going to relentless rush, and let's see what happens. Mana pot, we'll do kick, rush through, and let's lock on and start swinging. 22k, 20k, 21k, a lot of damage. And then let me mana potion, let me dodge, and see what we can get off before the timer. Yeah, some good damage, okay? Woof. So this thing hits insanely hard. You just have to manage your mana, okay? That's going to be the difference with the Crescent Wave and Serenity. But this is hitting way harder, okay? Now, on the last boss, on the egg, Serenity is going to be better, and it's not even close. The last boss, you can also get your mana up, and you can shoot a wave and hit the flower on the boss's back. So it's up to you if you want to do that. Or you put the GreatSword on your back, and you have your bow, and that way you can actually get the 10% or the 12% base damage to targets further than 10 meters away. So there's a couple different ways you could use this GreatSword, and man, I just think it's really powerful. They're probably going to nerf it at some point. So the other build I had with the medium Azoth conductors, I wouldn't spend the money on that. I think they're going to nerf the GreatSword here pretty soon, so we'll see. But anyways, that is the difference between both of them, and you can decide which one you want to use. Do you like having to manage your mana or not? Now, it's also harder to get into the hive with the Crescent Wave compared to Serenity, because most people still think Serenity is better. But if you can create your own group or maybe get accepted, people will still ask you to run the damn rapier all the time, and you're just going to have to try to fight through it, okay? And yeah, that is basically the whole video in a nutshell. I wanted to go over the gear, which I did, the attributes, the weapons. Oh, by the way, if you want to, after the first boss, go this plus Inferno, that's my favorite build, okay? So you can hit a target, do some burst damage, and then you get right to your Hatchet and just start going to town. 7k light hits, 8k final hit. It is really, really good. So yeah, that's my favorite loadout to go with. Something a little bit different here on the end. Something to think about after the first boss. The Hatchet is just going to be a lot better than the GreatSword, because the GreatSword's just slow, let's be honest. The Crescent Wave does hit insanely hard. Managing that mana throughout the rest of the hive, I don't know. It's not that exciting to me. But when that first boss goes down and you're hitting 30k or so, whew, Well, that's the fun part. Anyways, all right, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you have any suggestions for any other videos, feel free to leave them in the comments, and I'll see y'all later.